Shalom. Let's get straight into this lesson, but this will be a more accurate depiction as the world knows as Moses. He'll be a so-called black man in today's terminology. And I'm going to get into this whole New Testament, how they rebranded the Bible. When you go into what you know as the New Testament, they changed it up. It's not supposed to say that. It's supposed to say renewed covenant. And I'm going to prove that to you. So let's get into this lesson. So this is that devil, the so-called white man, changing words, add new words into the English language, and so on and so forth. So let's get into this piece of information right here from ChatGPT. We'll let this load up real quick. But that's why most Christians, even when you go to like the Barnes and Nobles of the world, they have only New Testament only Bibles. Why is this though? What's going on here? What are they trying to hide? And when they change the word, when they put the word New Testament there, it changes the whole dynamic of what the so-called New Testament is actually addressed to, who it's addressed to, what it's talking about. I'm going to show you what's the correct word supposed to be there so you can make sense of all this. So let's get straight into this. It says number 1 at the top. It says what the original words actually say in Jeremiah 31 and 31. In the Hebrew reads, so that's where you get the precept from that goes to Hebrews 8 and 8. They was pulling from Jeremiah 31:31. It says right here, it says Brit Kad Dashah, some alone Kadashah, something like that. Which literally means a new covenant. But check this out. This is where it gets wild at. It says more accurately, a renewed covenant. That's what's supposed to be there. A renewed covenant. So this is a big deal right here. And so let's keep getting into this. It says in Hebrew thought, right here. It says Chad Kadash, some along those lines. My Hebrew ain't the best. When I'm, does not necessarily mean brand new. It says are replacing something. It often means renewed, refreshed, restored. Nothing in the passage suggests a brand new religion or covenant with a different people. This is very, very important information that I'm going over. And you have to watch this lesson over and over to get it. Let's keep going. It says in the text explicit about who it is for. It says, behold, the days come, said Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, when I will make a renewed covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. That cuts the Gentiles can be grafted in, because those Gentiles that it was talking about grafted in were Israelites. These weren't no heathen nations that it's a bad doctrine, perverted doctrine going around right now. It ain't nothing new, but it's being resurfaced. It says, so your Hebrew Bible is rendering it more faithfully as a renewal covenant. It says right here, it says 2, where New Testament actually comes from. Check this out. The phrase New Testament does not come from Hebrew at all. Here's the chain. It says Hebrew, Brit. That's how you got the British people proving that they were Israelites. The British people that's in the land right now took over the dark people that was in the land were Israelites and called themselves British. It says Hebrew, Brit, covenant. It says Greek translators use diatheke, some along those lines. It says Latin translator rendered this as testimonium. English Bibles inherited testament from Latin, not Hebrew. That's a problem. It says problem. In Hebrew thinking, covenant is a living agreement between Yahweh and a people, which were Israelites. It says in Roman Latin law, testimonium means a will, something that takes effect when someone dies. That legal meaning distorts the Hebrew concept. So when they put this word testament, they said New Testament, that's how they're able to pull anybody can, anybody that believe in the Bible is now grafted in and they, all that madness. No. Let's go here. Number 3. Why it was translated this way. It says the shift to New Testament was accidental. No, it wasn't accidental. It was done on purpose. It served theological and political goals. It says A, early church separation from Israel. So that's what they did. It says after the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD, Gentile church leadership wanted to distance from Judaism, and it's not Judaism. That's what the small hats created. The J people created a religion called Judaism. We Hebrew Israelites and our nationality and everything is in the Bible. Judaism is new speak. It says needed legitimacy independent of Israel. It says reframe the scriptures as old versus new. You hear this? Calling it New Testament implies that the old is obsolete. Israel covenant is replaced. The church is a new chosen body. This is replacement theology, not Hebrew theology. So this is why they did this. So let me show you let me break this down further so you can get it. Let's go here. Let's first start off as a building block. We're gonna go to Salakia. 2 Corinthians. Matter of fact, let me go back. 3 and 6. So we're gonna go to this word testament. So I'm gonna show you something. So testament, you see all the places that is mentioned. I'm just gonna pull a random one. So when you go to the word testament, and this is why you got to go back into the Hebrew, and I'm gonna get into that scripture as well. So testament, diakathi, something like that. It says right here, let's get straight to the point. It says a compact, a covenant. So they replaced the word covenant with testament, which the word testament, it goes back into a Latin origin. I'm going to show you that. So that means that they can counsel out the Israelites and push this supersessionism or replacement theology. When you go into the actual correct word, it means covenant. Let's go here. Give me 1 second. Back to this. So number 4, it says why New Testament is misleading. The phrase suggests a new people, which is the churches. They say it says a new law or abolished law. They say the law is done away with. A covenant replacing the Sinai covenant, which was with the Israelites. But the prophets say same law written in the hearts. Jeremiah 31, 33. It says same people, Israel and Judah, gonna bring together them as a collective nation. Same power, or same God, same promises. It's a renewal, not a cancellation. Number 5 is very important, what I'm about to read to you. It says why modern Hebrew Bibles corrected. So that's why you got to go back into the Hebrew to get the correct meaning of what things are saying. Going back into Ecclesiastes prologue. For the same things uttered in Hebrew and translated into another tongue, I'm paraphrasing, have not the same effect. It says right here, it says Hebrew rooted translation often use renewed covenant. When you put the word renewed there, I'm going to show you the difference from renewed and new. It's a big difference. So it's supposed to be renewed covenant, not new covenant. So renewed, look at the definition here. It says having been resumed. It says re-established, revived. That's a big difference. Let's go to the word new. So this is why they put this witchcraft in here. New, it says not existing before. You hear this? It's a big difference from the word renew and the word new. So it's supposed to be the renewed covenant instead of what they put as New Testament. So they put New Testament in there to cause confusion, right? Let's keep going. Let's prove my point more. Let me see. Let's go to Jeremiah 31:31. Remember, this was being pulled from. right here. I'm proving my point. It says Jeremiah 31:31. Is that 31:31? Salak, yeah. Behold, the days come, said Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, when I will make a new covenant. They put the terminology New Testament with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. How it's supposed to be read as renewed covenant. Because he's gonna he's gonna give us the promises that come with a renewed covenant, but it's with the same people. So you can understand what I'm saying, the Israelites. And when you go to this word covenant in the Hebrew, it means Brit, which means covenant, so on and so forth. It's a covenant. And you go to this word new, like I showed you, it says fresh. Fresh. So in this context, it's talking about to renew. So they will make the New Testament. So when you go on to your Bible, you see how you turn over the page and you see New Testament, right? Going into the New Testament, it's supposed to be read renewed covenant. And why is that so important for you to understand? Because if once you crack that page open to Matthew chapter 1, that means you have to understand and moving forward that everything thus from Matthew chapter 1 to the end of the book of Revelation is all about the Israelites. That's why that's important to understand now. Let's go here. So they really did a mind job putting the terminology New Testament when it's supposed to be renewed covenant. Remember, the word testament goes back into a Latin origin. Matter of fact, let me show you that. So testament. That's why you got to go back into the Hebrew to get the truth. It says testament. It says Latin testimonium, a will. In Christian Latin, also translating Greek covenant. So that's really what it means, covenant, but they wouldn't put the word testament, which is a Latin word. Goes back into a Latin origin, rather. Let's go here. Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and 1. Let's go to it's the part I'm looking for. It says right here. It says at the top, for the same things uttered, that means said, that means discussed, that means written in Hebrew and translated into another tongue. So what you have in the new so-called New Testament, which is supposed to be renewed covenant, is Greek, and you have Latin as well. But when it's taken out of the Hebrew, you can switch stuff around. You know what I'm saying? And translated into another tongue have not the same force in them, so don't have the same effect. Words change when they translate into other languages. They can be manipulated. They can be changed around. It could be like a lot of witchcraft done to the words. It says, but the law itself and the prophets and the rest of the books have no small difference when they are spoken in their own language. That's why when you go back into the Hebrew, when you go back into the Jeremiah 31:31, which they got from the make Hebrews 8 and 8, it says the word covenant, renewed covenant, right? Renewed, which means reestablish. So he's gonna make he's gonna redo the covenant over with Israel, and this is gonna be immortality. We're gonna rule over our enemies. That's gonna be their renewed covenant with all 12 tribes, not just one tribe, right? As they try to portray that in the so-called Jews, which the so-called Jews, today, the Jewish people are Edomites. They go back to Amalek. That's their true ethnicity. Hopefully you caught what I was saying. And remember, the phrase New Testament is supposed to be renewed covenant. And that would make the whole so-called New Testament all make sense, that it's only talking about Israel. Nothing never changed. Going back to Malachi chapter 3 and 6. Most High said he changed not. All right, hopefully this lesson was edifying. Call Halal Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak, Kodash. Shalom.